didn't know is I'm with the Lutheran Foundation of the Southwest and have been for, it'll be 15 years in January, which is an unbelievable God story from the get-go. I was a television sportscaster for 14 years prior to this life. And you know that old line? There's an old line that says, you want to make God laugh? You want to make the Lord laugh? Tell him your plans for the next 5 years. And that's exactly where I was. I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I know the Lord was going, oh, little boy, you're going to do none of that. Have I got plans for you? And that's exactly what happened. I left the TV industry because I was not seeing my kids, I was not at home. You're always on the road covering football like Rodney and I were talking about. I was either covering the Texas Longhorns or the Dallas Cowboys or every other sport under the sun. And it got to the point where that's all I was doing. And I was not making a difference in people's lives. And I remember going to bed one night praying about it. And I said, Lord, what am I doing with my life? Whose lives am I changing by telling them that the Reds beat the Astros 4-2? In the grand scheme of things, the Reds beating the Astros 4-2 makes no difference whatsoever in anybody's life now or in the future. Isn't that right? So I got to the point where I said, I'm not making a difference in anybody's life, dear Lord, and I want to. I want to do your work. And next thing you know, God led me to the Lutheran Foundation of the Southwest because I happened to have a friend that worked for Lutheran Social Services at the time, and that was the link. That's the link. And my friend David said, David, he goes, you'd be perfect in this line of work. He said, helping carry out God's message, helping folks while they're living, and then these folks are going to help out this earth and this world after they're gone to heaven. And I said, wow, that sounds really, really neat. And know that I'm on no commission. We don't sell anything. When people see me coming, they think, okay, here comes an insurance guy. He's about to sell us some insurance. No. Okay, here comes a financial planner. His name's David Johnson. He's about to sell us a financial plan, and we're going to have to be knee-deep in this to get involved. No. So this morning, all I want to do is talk to you about making this world a better place after we're gone. One of my favorite stories of all time in the Bible, and that's why I'm looking at my Bible here. This is not my, people say, that's a phone, that's not a Bible. I have 400 Bibles on this phone, so it really is a Bible. And any language we want. But this is one of my favorites. From John 13:34. Love one another. I love how it just starts out. Love one another. Period. In the same way I loved you, you love one another. This is how everyone will recognize that you are my disciples. When they see the love you have for each other. I love coming to the Sunset home. I'm up here probably about once a month. And I love to visit with the folks up here. You folks have so much love with you. And I see that love all the time. And who's that a reflection on? That's a reflection on God. That's a reflection on Jesus. That He loves us so much, and that we love others, and that we show our love of Him through us. And that is so great. People ask me all the time, why do you do the work for the Lutheran Foundation of the Southwest? Why do you go in if you're not on commission, if you're not selling anything, if you're not, doing this or that and the other like real businesses do? Why do you work for the Lutheran Foundation of the Southwest? And I wrote it down years ago, and I thought about it, and I said, I work for the Lutheran Foundation of the Southwest because I love the Lord. And I love changing the world for the sake of the gospel, disaster, hunger, seminary scholarships, lifting up Lutheran camps, lifting up Lutheran organizations like the Sunset Home, assisting Lutheran churches, on and on and on. But when it comes down to is I work for the foundation because I love the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And I feel that's where God has called me to be. To be able to tell folks, there's different ways to give. When I was growing up and when you were growing up, what was the only way to give in the church? In the plate, right? We gave in the plate. I didn't know another way to give. I remember we had a little church, little box, plastic church when I was growing up in Sunday school, and you would put coins in the top of the steeple, and it would go down. I thought that was the only way to give to the church until I was probably in high school. That's a mistake that we're making. We need to pass that giving torch. We need to show the next generation and the generation after that how to give and why it's important to give. Giving, an old pastor told me this, and Pastor Smith will agree with me on that giving and offering is worship. When you give an offering, you're worshiping. You're telling God what He means to you when you give. There's so many folks, and we talk about giving. An old friend of mine once said, you can give and not love, but you can't love and not give. Oh, we can write a check. We can give and say, oh, this is for the Girl Scouts on the down the street. We can, no, we're a big fan of that, blah, blah, blah. Here you go, little girl. Here's a check. That's giving and not loving. But when you're in a situation, when you're in a church, when you're in a community, and you love that community, and you love that church, and you love the folks around you, and there's folks around us that we don't even know that may be hurting, but we know we love those folks because they're our neighbors. Love your neighbor as yourself. And we can't sit idle by and say, well, those folks down the street, you know, they had their house decimated by fire, but we don't know those folks, and we're not sure where they go to church, so we're not gonna help them out. That's not what God's calling us to do. God says we love our neighbor as ourselves. Those folks are hurting. We're not hurting right now. What are we going to do? We're going to go help those people. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. It's what God's called us to do. And that's what the foundation is about. And we can help set up plans. We can help show you. Every single situation in this room is different. Your situation is completely different from hers. Your situation is completely different from theirs. And my ministry, what I like to do and what I'm being called to do is sit down with you one-on-one. Remember, I'm on no commission. I can sit down with you one-on-one and say, let's take a look at your plans. Let's take a look at maybe your wishes and dreams. What you want to do after you pass away. And everybody in this room is different. And remember, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a financial planner, but we can work in concert with your lawyer, with your financial planner, to come up with a plan, to come up with some ways that you can give that with the foundation, 95% of the time, these gifts don't come to fruition until you're in heaven. A man asked me one time, he said, David, he goes, a will can do that. A will can do whatever you want. I said, do you have a will? He said, no, I don't. I said, okay. I said, let's talk about that. And he said, I said, why don't you have a will? He goes, well, my kids are going to get everything. I said, are you really sure about that? And are your kids all equal? We've got 3 kids in our family. Praise God, they're all equal. Me, my brother and sister, I think, are all considered loving, wonderful kids, and we're each going to split 1/3 of what my parents have, and what my parents said they have now is 0. So we're going to get 1/3 of 0. I kid. But I was serious when I asked this man. I said, why don't you have a will? He said, because my children are going to get everything. I said, are you so sure about that? I said, if you don't have a will in the state of Texas has a will for you, and it might not be to your liking. Some folks have had situations where maybe they pay for one child's college fund. This child doesn't go to college, And I say, well, you know what? You went to college and we fixed you up with college and we paid for all your college, but son, we didn't pay for your college, so we're going to tell you what, we're going to give him 70% of our estate and we're going to give you only 30, but you know that. In a will, if I didn't have a will, these two are going to get 50% each. And then when I die, what's this guy going to be saying? Hey sis, you got a really good deal there. You got mom and dad paying for college and you got 50% of their estate. Can you float me a little loan or give me 20% over here? And then you got two kids that are going like this. And I tell folks all the time, talk with your children about your plans. Please, talk with your grandkids, talk with anybody that's close to you. Talk to them, explain it to them, say, here's what we're going to do after we're in heaven. We're going to give you 30% because we paid for your college, and we're going to give you 70% because we didn't pay for your college. Are you good with that? We hope so, because that's what we're going to do. There's no fighting after we pass away. It's right here on this will. So this man told me, he said, he goes, I don't need a will and I don't want a will. And you know what I told that man? I said, wow. I said, that's a shame. I said, who is the will for? I said, when does a will start to work, sir? And he said, when I'm dead. And I said, last I checked, a dead man doesn't need anything. I said, you're leaving that will behind for your loved ones. That's a roadmap for them to use for your wishes and your dreams. Maybe your kids or grandkids don't know how meaningful the Sunset Home is to you in your heart. Maybe they don't know that you want to leave a simple gift to the Sunset Home when you pass away. That's in your heart. Now, if you don't have that on a piece of paper, that's not a very good plan. I'll tell you about my German Lutheran, hard-nosed grandfather who was born in 1898 and he passed away in 1982. He lived a tough life. He lived through the Depression. He knew what the value of a dollar was. I asked him for $5 once to go to the county fair up there in northern Minnesota, and I didn't get the $5, but I got an hour lecture about how much $5 was and how he used to work 3 days for $1.50. Well, I got a good lesson that day. Never ask Grandpa for money. But the problem with my grandfather was he was a loving, giving man, and he meant to make a difference in the lives of those left behind after he went off to heaven. He never got around to putting those plans down on paper. He never got a plan in place. He never talked to a lawyer. He never talked to anybody about setting up these plans. He thought he was going to live to be 150. Of course, he's a hard-boiled German, Lutheran from northern Minnesota. He's going to live to be 150. Well, the problem was he went to bed, he was 84 years old, and he passed away at night. And he had no will, and he had no plans. The plans he had were right here. And you, Trish, you know, a plan in here is not a very good plan in a court of law. Unless you can come back and speak to the judge and you're an angel, then that plan is not a good plan. And that's what happened to my grandfather. So he had plans for that little Lutheran church up there in northern Minnesota. He loved FFA because he was a farmer. He had other things that were near and dear to him. Did any of those get a taste of his wealth? No, they didn't. Because the plan wasn't on paper yet. And so Uncle Sam got about $400,000 off the top of a $1.2 million estate. My parents are 80 years old now. My dad's still working. It didn't change their life at all. He probably thought he was leaving his wife, my mom, my aunt, and the 3 grandkids more money than we could spend in 50 lifetimes. Well, he didn't have a very good plan, and it didn't change anybody's life. It got me a car to go to college, a little Nissan that lasted about 8 years. And that was it. Grandpa lives his whole life, and that's all I got. That's all I get. And I mean, it crushes me, to use an old sports analogy, because that was a fumble. That was a wasted opportunity. Because people look back at my grandfather and they say, oh, he didn't leave anything to anybody. He was just a stubborn old, Lutheran guy who didn't want to leave any money to anybody. And that couldn't be farther from the truth, and that's what crushes me. He wanted to get around to leave something. He could have left a simple bequest, and we help folks with bequests. A bequest is simply, we fill out a little piece of paper, and we fill it out, and you say, I want to promise to leave Lutheran Sunset Ministries 5% of my estate. Or pick a number. I want to leave $10,000 to Lutheran Sunset Ministries. And you can. And that's easy. You've already got that plan down on a piece of paper. And no one's going to change that. And your kids are fine with it. You're telling them about it. Listen, Sunset Home means a lot to me. I want to leave something to them. The church means a lot to me. I want to leave something to them. The American Cancer Society means something to me. I want to leave something to them. It's about the gift. It's not about the size of the gift. One of my favorite Bible verses, since I was a kid, and the more I studied it as I got older, this story impresses me more and more and more. It's from Mark chapter 12, and it starts at verse 41. And Jesus sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into an offering box. Many rich people put in large sums, and a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which make up about a penny. And Jesus called to his disciples and said to them, Truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing to the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on. And think with me about that scene. And Jesus calling his disciples over. His disciples have been watching this scene all day. And back in the day, at these treasuries, the rich people would come and hire horns, hire drums to say, look at me, look what I'm... And they're dumping in gold and silver. Look at me, how impressive I am. Look how... I'm amazing. Lift me up. And they're putting it out of their abundance. And she's got these 2 small coins. Any one of us probably would have said, you know what? I'm going to walk off. I'm going to put these coins in my pocket. They're no good. Look at all that money that's going in there. These 2 coins don't make for a hill of beans. But what did she do? She went over there, probably sheepishly, probably a little embarrassed, and she reached in and she put those 2 coins in the box. And Jesus was blown away. Jesus said, guys, this is the biggest gift of love I've seen. And they said, Lord, did you see these other guys on the side? They were dumping all that gold and silver. That is the real prize. And he said, no, it's not. She gave out of love. They gave out of their abundance. And the Bible calls us to give with a loving heart. And that's exactly what she did. And on that day, she had nothing to worry about. The Lord took care of her and is still taking care of her. And that just gives me chills that all of us can make a difference, no matter what amount. I hear so many times in my 14 years, David, I'd like to leave a little gift to the Sunset Home, but you know, I just don't have any money. I just don't have anything. And then I see folks pass away, like my grandfather, and there was a huge chunk of money, and none of it was earmarked for anything. And Uncle Sam likes that, because if it's not earmarked for anything, he's going to take some of that. So there are several different ways that you can leave a gift that's simple. You don't have to have a big elaborate trust or a gargantuan revocable living trust or something like that to leave a gift. You can leave one through a simple bequest. You can leave one through a codicil in your will. Let's say you have a will, and I hope you do, but most of the time in America, usually on average about 2 million people die in America per year. And usually about 50% of them do not have a will. That's a missed opportunity too. That's a struggle for the loved ones behind that have to try to follow a roadmap to figure out what mom and dad wanted. We don't know. Mom and dad were too nervous to talk to us about money when we were growing up. And even when I'm 50 years old, mom and dad are they struggle to talk to money about us. And I say, Mom, Dad, tell me your dreams and wishes. Tell me, what's important to you. Oh, we don't want to talk about dying yet. And I said, Mom, Dad, doesn't dying run in our family? Doesn't it? Because, I pretty much think dying runs in our family, and I want plans in place so me and my brother and sister aren't running around for 2 years wondering about how to put this all together. There's a wonderful book called Die Broke, and it's awesome because the bottom line is you've given away everything, no one owes you money, and you don't owe anybody money on the day you die. And you can set up things, and we can help you. And over here, before I forget, I've left out some ministry overviews over here underneath the lamp. My card is stapled to the front of it. If at any time, and this is where I truly feel God calling us and me, is the one-on-one, sitting down with you on a one-on-one basis. Just to say, hey, listen, sometimes it's me pointing you in the right direction. Maybe it's me saying, you know what? You don't have a will, and you probably need someone like Trish or a decent lawyer to be able to help you out with that. And to be able to say, hey, no? Not really. Okay. Well, Trish knows somebody that would, anybody that could help you with that will. We can help you with a simple bequest. It's very easy, and you don't have to give anything today. You don't have to give anything next week. There's also a thing, an opportunity to give through a vehicle called a charitable gift annuity. And Weldon and Betty know about a charitable gift annuity. It's very simple. It's great for senior folks. You give away an amount of money. It's based on your age. Then in turn, the foundation will pay you a percentage for the rest of your life. And every quarter, y'all get a check in the mail, or it's direct deposited, I'm not sure. And the wonderful thing about a charitable gift annuity is that half of the initial gift, because we're making money on that through the years, is going to go to the Sunset Home. And that's a wonderful gift. You're getting paid an amount for your lifetime. And right now, I think an 80-year-old is around 7.5%. A lot better than the stock market. And this is a thing that I told my father about, and my father, everybody thinks their dad's the smartest guy in the world, right? And I told my dad about charitable gift annuities when I got on board with the foundation years ago, and he said, wait a minute, this sounds like a new thing. I've never heard of a charitable gift annuity. And I said, yes, Dad, they are new. I said, the first one was written at a Bible college up on the East Coast in 1847. I said, so they are fairly new. They're about 160 years old. But they've been doing this for a long time. And it's very simple. And if you've even got a question about maybe there's someone here that's not, maybe there's someone here that knows of someone, a friend, a cousin, a brother, a sister, that maybe needs a little guidance to be able to help them through this life and to be able to help them carry out God's word and to leave this place a better place after we're gone. 2 Corinthians 9. But this is what I say. He which sows sparingly shall reap also sparingly. And he which sows bountifully shall reap bountifully. That's amazing. And you think about that, and you think about where God is calling us, and there's always little things that pop up in our lives to say, wow, I'd like to help out with that. I'd like to help out with this. How can I go about that? How can I make a difference? We're a starting place. We can answer some of those questions and point them in the right way. But the simple ways to give, a codicil through your will, and a codicil is a fancy Latin word that means I want to do a little change to my will. And it might be as simple as I want to leave, everything in my will is the same. I want my 3 kids to get a third, a third, a third. But I want to do an outright gift off the top, and I want to leave that outright bequest to the Sunset Foundation. The Sunset Home. It's Lutheran Foundation. I get confused. Lutheran Sunset Ministries. And I want 5% to go to the home. Okay? Or I want a certain amount to go to the home. You can do that through a bequest. You can do that through a codicil, through your will, any way you wish, or a charitable gift annuity. So, what's the bottom line? God's calling us to leave this place a better place. And to also lift up your kids, lift up your grandkids, talk to those kids about it. I am already talking to my kids, 10 and 12, well, have been for years. This is my favorite trick. This is my favorite trick. I give them each 2 $10 bills at church. In church, I say, here you go, here's 2 10s, here's 2 10s. Oh, wow. Now all of a sudden they start going. They start thinking, well, what are we going to do with this 20 bucks? What are you going to do with this 20 bucks? Oh, yeah, and when the plate comes by, you're going to put one of those 10s in there. What? What? Yes, but you got 10 bucks. Now what are you going to do with your 10 bucks? But they see we need to give with a joyful noise and to be able to make a difference and to know that that church is going to give out to not only the community and this city and this town, but more importantly the world, and to make it a better place. And it's easy. When folks come to me and say, this is all I want to do, I do a lot here, and I do a lot at my church, and I work at the Pot of Gold, this and that, but you know what? I would like to leave a little bit of a percentage to the Sunset Home. How can I do that? I'll come up here, I'll have a form that you can sign. It goes in there. Obviously, if you pass away, if you die broke and you have 0, your kids aren't getting anything, and no charities are getting anything either. That just happens. Sometimes we had a lady pass away recently. She was 104. Guess what? She wasn't able to leave anything because she didn't have anything. It was all used up. But she was able to live a wonderful life, and she loved on her kids and her grandkids, and they loved on her until she passed on to heaven. There's an old story I talk about, giving to God, and people say, well, God needs our money to live? Jesus needs our money? Well, there's an old story about a man who wanted to be closer to God. So he climbed to the top of Mount Sinai, and he said, Lord, how much is $1 million to you? And he heard a voice cry out, about a penny. Lord, how much is 1,000,000 years to you? He said, about a minute. He said, wow. He goes, Lord, can I have a penny in a minute? God does not think about money like we do. We are not going to need it when we're in heaven. We are not going to need anything. We're going to have love, and that's what we're going to have. And to leave this place better and thinking about it in a different angle. It's like the man that was out trying to plant a peach tree, and he's out there on his hands and knees, and he's 85 years old. His name's Henry. And Henry was down on his hands and knees planting this peach tree, and little Elizabeth inside the house next door sees Henry on his hands and knees, and she panics. She comes flying out the door, and she goes, Henry, are you okay? And he said, yes, Elizabeth, I'm fine. What's going on? She said, well, I saw you on your hands and knees, and I thought you were going to die or something. He said, no, I'm feeling fine. She goes, well, what are you doing? He said, I'm planting a peach tree. She said, no offense, Henry. You're no spring chicken. You think? Why are you planting a peach tree? You're not going to be able to taste any peaches off this. And he said, listen, Elizabeth, I've loved peaches my entire life. He goes, and I'm planting this peach tree so maybe you and your friends can enjoy peaches for the rest of your life. He's planting that peach tree for the next generation. And that's what we need to think like. We can't think of, how can we build us better? How can we make our lives better right here? we've got to be thinking about others. We got to love our neighbor as ourselves. God bless you all. It's a simple, simple thing to be able to sit down with me and have me just explain. And sometimes if I don't have the answer for you, and I'm not an expert on all these, I'll call some of my lawyer friends, I'll call some of my financial planners, I'll find anybody to help out, to be able to say, listen, I want to make your plans, pull those into, and make those real. And I want you to be able to talk to your loved ones about that and say, hey, I'm excited. I'm going to leave a gift to the Sunset home, and it's not going to take anything out of your pockets. You're not even going to have to worry about it. Everything's going to be taken care of, because that's what I want to do. And I love when folks come to me and they say, oh my gosh, we'd love to talk to you, but our kids would kill us if we talked to you. I said, you know what? Bring your children in. Let's talk to your kids as well. And I do. And I don't think there's been one time, I can't think of one time when I left the kids, be they 30, 40, 50, after their mom and dad talked about what they wanted to lift up after they passed away. I never had a kid grab me by the shoulder and say, David, leave my family alone, leave my parents alone. They're not giving you or the church anything. I never have run into that. But it's to be able to talk to your kids and grandkids and say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. This is our money. You don't worry about it. You're going to get yours. You're going to get some, but you're not going to get everything. Because that's not the way it is in the world. So I just want to say, I know you can tell, I'm a little passionate about what I do. I'm a little excited about what I do, because when I see it from start to finish, and when I see somebody like Cleo Ellingson, y'all remember Cleo? When I see somebody like Ben Trotter, y'all remember Ben? Ben was over here, and Ben and Valita said, we want to give, but we have no idea how to do that. And we were able to show them. And Ben, 3 weeks before he passed away, he gave me a big hug like he always did, and he started crying. And he said, is everything taken care of, David? Is everything taken care of? I said, absolutely, Ben. It is. And I was able to play my guitar at his funeral, and I sang Amazing Grace, and we lifted up and celebrated the life of Ben. We celebrated the life of Cleo, and they left behind gifts that they never thought would be possible. And they were so simple. And to be able to see the smile on their faces, and to know that they left this place a better place. And now Cleo's up dancing with her husband, and Ben's dancing with Valita, and seeing his son John. I mean, that's what it's all about. That this place on earth, this is not our home. We all know that. This is just a watering pond here. This is not our home. Home is what we've been promised. Home is everlasting life. And I just want to say thank you so much for letting me share my story. I'll be around for a little bit. Let's talk individually. Don't forget to grab a ministry overview. There's cards there too if you just want to say, I'd love for you to call me. Here's my phone number. Next time you're in town, let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk for 5-10 minutes. Doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out conversation. And we'll go from there. But remember to keep your eyes on God, keep loving each other, and everything else will take care of itself. Thank you, folks.